Welcome back. We're working on the Bug today. We will be putting back in the front suspension. I pulled the spindles and anything else that off of this rusty old rack, even the grease fittings, I'll save them. The tow hook, I'm going to cut this off, just save it. I may or may not weld it back on to the new one. Gotta decide. The box is all mounted on. Before I put this back in the car, I want to lube the tie rod ends. These are original and the rubber is in really good shape. So what I am going to do is squeeze out whatever grease is going to come out of here. It's just about all of it that I could get. I want to put some fresh grease in. Now, there is no Zerk fitting because it was lubed for life. And the last time these things were lubed was when they were put in the car in March of 1974. So, I think it's time for some fresh grease. Ooh, I got some more. Get the last bit out. What I'm using to put the grease in is this. Clips into your grease gun. It's a little pinpoint. You could actually use this on Zerk fittings that you can't, or in an angled spot where you just push it up against the hole and you could actually grease hard to reach grease fittings with this without having to clip it all the way onto the fitting. And I'm going to hook this underneath the boot and pump in a little grease. Oops. There we go. It's nice and full. Next, I already squeezed a lot of this one out. Let's see if I get some more. You don't want to damage the boot, but it's able to squeeze in over here. All right, before we bolt the I-beam back up, we are going to just run some bolts through here and clean up the threads a little bit and run them back and forth. Take a peek inside, pull the inspection cover off. The fuel line in this car is rotted and needs to be replaced, but you could see where the line goes underneath there, and it's held in place in I think 2 or 3 different spots. So even though I have access from here, there isn't a lot of access throughout the rest of the car to change it, so we're going to run the fuel line in a different location. And before the cover goes back on, I want to protect the patches I did underneath the bottom from rusting. So I had some weld-through coating put on, but obviously there's still other rust on the inside bottom surface of that. So we're going to spray a little bit of this corrosion stop. I've had good results with this. Doesn't really ever dry up. It stays kind of like waxy, like film. And I'll put a little bit of that in along to cover the bottom surface and put the inspection cover back on. There's a lot of crud in the bottom of these. The bolts got all cleaned on the wire wheel. Clean up the threads. This is like the worst looking one. I just want to run them all down with some penetrating lube on them to see if they'll go in all the way. Top ones are going in deeper than the bottom ones. I'm going to run a tap through the bottom ones. I'm going to carefully run a tap down to break up the rust that's in the bottom of this hole. I think that should be good enough. A few other things I want to do before this goes back in is make sure all these adjustments are loose. So it's going to need an alignment eventually. So I don't want to fight with it when it's in the car. And so why not do it now? Cleaned up the splines so they'll slide in nice and easy. I put a little bit of grease on them. I scribed a little line on it too, so I'm putting it back in the same way it came out. There it is. Before I put this back in, I want to put the stabilizer bar back on so I don't have to be underneath the car doing it upside down. I'll do it with the rack. Put the beam upside down. Too.
What?
Let's hit the red button. Well, that took a while to finagle it in, but it's in. Just got to torque the bolts down now. You could see the clearance from that bracket right here. This should be sitting down much lower right here. The body is still raised up a little bit. See the gap. The only other way you'd be able to take this beam out of the car would be to have to cut these bumper brackets off and re-weld them in place, or just have the complete pan, you know, off the body. But it's in there. I had to stop and put 2 jacks, one on each side, to lift it up the rest of the way because I couldn't get the movement back and forth that I needed. 36 foot-pounds for the torque. It doesn't seem like a lot. All the tie rods are hooked up and the steering stabilizer's in. The only thing I have to do now is to lower the body back down and hook up the steering coupler. Jack's holding up the body and it's going to go back down right now. Going down. Oh, now tighten the bolts back up again. Here's a little tip for when you're trying to get these bolts to go back in. The plate will constantly move out of the way and shift. This one I already caught because if you peek up inside, get my headlight on. I'll poke this through and then expand it and able to pull down just enough so when you keep pushing these bolts back in, it's not moving out of the way. Show you what I mean. That's in, pulled. So you need 3 hands here, but it'll work. Pull back on it and then you're holding it. That's holding this down and you could get the other bolts started. Once you get in most of the way, you pull it out. Now the other one will be held down with this. Make sure you have it lined up. There it is. And get this one started. Nice and easy to come out. When you want to put them back in though, that's another problem. Okay, all that work to save this wire, and then we put the steering coupler back in. This is a made in Germany replacement. Place the old riveted together unit that was original still in here. Got all hardware to bolt it back together. We got steering. Yay. Let's see if we got continuity so our horn will work. Perfect. All right, now with all that done, we'll be moving on to the brakes. Everything is getting replaced. Master cylinder, lines, rubber hoses. We're doing a disc brake conversion on the front. Not from a kit, just buying all individual pieces. We'll see how that works out. Thanks for watching and tune in next time.